Modern physics rests on a discovery made in 1900. Max Planck found that energy is always delivered in minimum, indivisible portions. He named this fundamental grain the quantum. While physics has verified this quantization through a century of experiments, it treats the existence of these energy packets as a starting assumption. We have no standard theory that explains why energy is forced into these specific containers. Richard Feynman famously noted that while we can measure the size of the quantum, Planck's constant, with extreme precision, the origin and the exact value of that number remain among the greatest unsolved mysteries in science. Building our entire understanding of the physical world on top of an unexplained constant leaves a massive conceptual void at the center of reality. The ODTOE framework suggests that the quantum is actually an event of observation, rather than a static physical object. This event takes the form of a strange loop. It is a single, complete revolution where a system observes its own state. The process is a geometric cycle. A system moves from a field of infinite potentiality to a singular, actual point of configuration, then returns to the field. In topology, a complete traversal of a closed circular path is defined by exactly 2 pi. A quantum represents the geometric cost of executing one complete, successful act of self-observation. This architecture uses 4 specific pillars. The first is the number pi, which governs the continuous shape and rotation of the quantum loop itself. The second pillar is the golden ratio, or phi. This number determines the discrete step required for the system to reconfigure itself between observation cycles. Viewed from above, the timeline of the universe appears as a series of nested circles. Each new quantum cycle scales upward by the golden ratio, ensuring that every iteration is a distinct, expanded version of the one before it. This logarithmic spiral is a recurring signature in nature. We see it clearly in the proportional growth of a nautilus shell, where each chamber scales by phi relative to the last. This scaling step creates a fundamental directionality. By ensuring that no 2 quantum cycles are identical, phi provides the mechanism for the arrow of time. Every act of observation requires a minimum triad: an observer, the observed reality, and the operator that performs the action. A geometric conflict arises here. The triad attempts to close a loop in exactly 3 steps, but a perfect circle mathematically requires pi steps. The triad falls short, leaving a gap of 0.14159, the exact difference between 3 steps and pi. In physics, energy is often calculated as the square of a wave's amplitude. ODTOE applies this same logic. Squaring this shortfall, pi minus 3 squared, reveals the specific gap energy generated by the loop's failure to perfectly close. If pi were an integer like 3, the loop would close perfectly, and the system would reach a state of total static equilibrium. This architectural imperfection is what drives reality forward. The unclosed gap provides the constant tension needed to trigger the next quantum cycle and the continued flow of time. We have traditionally assumed that Planck's constant is an immutable value that remains the same across the entire universe. The final pillar, dimensionality, or D, suggests a different possibility. It represents the structural horizon of the observer. Under this model, the grain of a quantum is relative. It shifts based on the dimensional scale of the observer interacting with the loop. A human observer perceives reality through a 3-dimensional horizon. However, a massive 7-dimensional system, such as a galaxy, would experience the fundamental resolution of action at a completely different scale. The grain of reality is dictated by the structural dimensionality of the observer. These 4 pillars, the circle, the scaling step, the triad gap, and the observer's horizon, form a single, unified map of existence. This geometric structure calculates the fundamental constants of physics using pure, dimensionless numbers. By summing specific geometric costs, the observer's focus, return path, and topological presence, the total resolves into the fine structure constant, 137, accurate to 9 digits. This derivation requires no experimental fudge factors. It relies entirely on the structural requirements of the loop. The fundamental values of our universe, are the inevitable mathematical results of a self-observing geometric system. This perspective shifts our view of the cosmos. The universe is no longer a collection of random microscopic particles. Instead, we see a breathing, three-part spiral of self-observation that scales endlessly outward into the dark void of space. Because pi is a transcendental number, it can never be simplified into a whole number like 3. This eternal mathematical shortfall ensures that the spiral gap remains open. Because the loop can never perfectly close, the motion of time and the generation of energy are guaranteed to continue forever.